You live in a sealed environment. Concrete under your feet, glass between you and the air, artificial light and a timer someone else set. And somewhere in the background of your life, there's a list of things that don't quite work. Your sleep is shallow. Your attention fragments before lunch. There's an unease you can't attach to anything specific. These are not personality flaws. They are not stress. They're not something an app will fix. They are biological symptoms of an environment your body does not recognize. Your nervous system evolved in a world of living complexity. Layered sound, unpredictable movement, chemical signals from soil and vegetation, light that changes by the minute. You live in a world that has removed almost all of that. And I want to show you what's missing. Not in a national park, not on a retreat, inside a city, on a piece of ground that nobody planned, nobody protected, and nobody even looks at. This is Pécs, southern Hungary, 140,000 people. And this is a piece of land inside it that hasn't been developed for roughly 60 years. No design, no planting. The only management it gets is a mower every couple of months. That's it. That's the entire human input into this place. Housing on one side, main roads on the others. The city going about its business as if this doesn't exist. Somewhere between 15 and 20,000 square meters of ground that nobody got around to paving over. Now, you could look at this and see a neglected field. Weeds, scrub, nothing particularly remarkable. A gap between buildings that nobody bothered with. Or, you could ask what 60 years of biology actually produces when a city accidentally leaves a wound open that long. I'm a biologist, and I genuinely don't know yet which one this is. Ordinary ground or something else entirely. That's what I'm here to find out. And what it contains, in compressed form, is almost everything that the sealed urban environment around it has removed from daily human life. That's what makes it worth a year of my attention. Every time I come here, I feel the same thing. Not calm, not peace, curiosity. What else could be here this week that wasn't here last time? That's the first thing that tells you this isn't a park. A park doesn't change. A living system does. On its own schedule, driven by conditions you have to learn to read. And when you start reading this place, it gets interesting fast. Take the mowing. This meadow gets cut roughly every 2 to 3 months. That sounds like basic maintenance. Biologically, it's something else entirely. That mowing is holding the open ground in a state of arrested succession. Without it, you'd have scrub within a decade, closed canopy within 2 or 3. Instead, it's been held in this early to mid successional state for 60 years. And that state, maintained by minimal disturbance, likely supports higher plant diversity than either an unmowed side or a manicured park lawn. The mower is accidentally doing what centuries of European meadow management did intentionally. Preventing canopy closure, maintaining the conditions for flowering plants, maintaining the insect communities that depend on them. And this kind of layered, structurally complex, unpredictable vegetation is exactly what attention restoration research points to as the environment the human brain actually recovers in. Not a tidy lawn, this. The mower is accidentally maintaining the conditions your prefrontal cortex needs after a full day on a screen. But that's just the open ground. Over here, something different happened. A patch of trees, planted about 35 years ago, left entirely alone once the canopy closed. No mowing, no management, nothing. And at 300 square meters, it's small enough that almost the entire patch is edge, which in fragment ecology raises a specific question. What actually persists in a patch this small? What can't? What arrived here on its own that nobody planted? Same site, same soil, same city. 2 completely different biological experiments running side by side, separated by a single variable, whether or not a mower reaches them. And even at this size, a closed canopy creates its own microclimate. Lower light, higher humidity, different temperature, different soil biology. A chemically distinct air profile from the open meadow 10 meters away. Your autonomic nervous system detects all of that, not consciously, but it's reading it and responding to it whether you're aware of it or not. So is this place ordinary or extraordinary? I'm not sure yet, but it's already more complicated than it looks from the road. I should tell you something about this place. I grew up next to it. Not near it, next to it. This was where I spent my time as a kid. We never had a proper name for it, just the Meadow. And I have one very specific memory from here. I was playing, running, and I went straight into a patch of nettles. Full body, face, arms, legs. The kind of sting that makes you think something serious happened to you. At the time that was just pain, a disaster. You cry about it and then you forget it. Except I didn't forget it. I'm a biologist now. And Urtica dioica, common nettle, doesn't grow randomly. It grows where soil nitrogen is high, where organic matter has been accumulating for years, where the ground is fertile and disturbed. It's a pioneer species. It's also the primary larval host for the peacock butterfly, the red admiral, the comma. A dense nettle patch in a place like this isn't a weed problem. It's a nursery and a feeding station simultaneously. I ran into that patch and felt nothing but the sting. What was actually there was a complete ecological sentence about soil fertility, nitrogen cycling, butterfly populations, written in a language I didn't have yet. That's what this series is, coming back to a place I knew before I could read it. You could ask, why this place? Why not a nature reserve, a national park, somewhere that's actually protected and ecologically documented? Because those places are expected. Nobody is surprised that a nature reserve has biodiversity. That's what it's there for. That's what it was designed to do. This wasn't designed to do anything. This is what biology builds inside a city when the city accidentally stops paying attention to a piece of ground. And that makes it a completely different kind of ecological question. A rural meadow develops under rural conditions. Low light pollution, low noise disturbance, low soil contamination, connected to other habitats. This meadow developed under none of those conditions. It developed surrounded by concrete, traffic, artificial light, fragmented from every other natural habitat by roads and buildings. Whatever is here survived or arrived despite all of that. That's not a lesser version of rural ecology, that's a different experiment entirely. And then there's this. There are industrial hot water pipes running through this site. They create permanent thermal anomalies, localized microclimates that don't exist anywhere in rural Europe. Something is growing around those pipes that wouldn't grow anywhere else on the site. I don't know exactly what yet. But a permanent heat source in a temperate urban ecosystem is the kind of condition that produces genuinely unexpected biology. This place matters precisely because it's urban, because the conditions that shaped it are the conditions of the world most people actually live in. And what assembled itself here, in the gaps under the disturbance between the pipes and the roads and the housing blocks, is the nature that exists where you are, not 2 hours away, here, in the city, hiding in plain sight. Which brings me back to the question I started with, ordinary or extraordinary? I'm starting to think that might be the wrong question entirely. I'm going to survey this site across a full year. I'm going to identify what lives here, the plants, the insects, the fungi, the soil biology, what arrived on its own, what the mowing maintains, what the canopy patch has become after 35 years without any interference at all. I'm going to follow the seasons, what emerges in spring, what the summer produces, what autumn reveals, what survives the winter. And every time I find something, I'm going to show you exactly what it means, not just ecologically, but biologically, for you, in your city. Every organism in this site connects to a biological process that urban life has disrupted. I'll make that connection explicit every time, not a metaphor, mechanistically. Because that's the real question this site is asking. Not just what grew here, but what does it tell us about what we've removed from daily human life by sealing everything over? Now, there's something else I need to tell you. This site may be demolished. Development is a real possibility. Nothing is decided, nothing is certain, but the threat is real. And if it happens, what disappears isn't just a field. It's 60 years of biological development that nobody documented and nobody can rebuild. You cannot reconstruct 6 decades of succession. You cannot replant a soil microbiome. You cannot reassemble the ecological relationships between species that took generations to establish. So part of what I'm doing here is building an archive, a biological record of what exists on this ground before anyone has to argue about whether it mattered. And if this place turns out to be extraordinary, if what's here is genuinely significant, then that record matters beyond this one site. Because there are places like this in every European city, unprotected, undocumented, sitting between the buildings while the city looks the other way. This is one of them, and I'm paying attention to it. I've been walking past this place for 20 years. Not ignoring it exactly, I knew it was there, I grew up next to it, but I was walking past it the way the city trains you to walk past things. I'm not doing that anymore. And here's what I know from 20 years of biology. A place like this, unplanned, unprotected, barely maintained, sitting inside a city that doesn't know what to do with it, is not nothing. It is the result of 60 years of ecological process that we don't fully understand and cannot replicate. It contains biological relationships, soil communities, and species interactions that took decades to assemble. And it is doing something for the living systems around it, including the human ones, that the sealed, managed, manicured city cannot do. I don't know yet exactly what that is. That's the point of this series. There is a place like this near you. I can almost guarantee it, but for the next year, I'm watching this one.